Hello and welcome to City Focus. I'm Diane Gonzolas. Our society spends a lot of time, energy, and money managing our trash. In Nebraska, we send more than 2 million tons of material to the landfills every year. Is there a better way? WasteCap Nebraska explored that question at its Sustainability Summit in October here in Lincoln. And joining me to talk about the future of waste management are Carrie Hakenkamp. She is the Executive Director of WasteCap Nebraska. Erik Lombardi from Boulder, Colorado was a featured presenter at the Sustainability Summit, and he is the Executive Director of EcoCycle International. And Stephanie Barger from Newport Beach, California was another presenter, and she is the Executive Director and founder of the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council. Thank you all very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Carrie, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit more about WasteCap of Nebraska and what your mission is of your organization.
Sure. WasteCap's been around for over 20 years. We've been here in Lincoln for 22 years. We were actually started by a business cooperative group that wanted to see improved recycling services here in the city of Lincoln. And it resulted in them doing a request for proposals all over the region, brought new recyclers into our region, created competition, and it kind of went from there. We started off as a program of the Chamber of Commerce, had some funding from the City of Lincoln and the Department of Environmental Quality, and we just continued to grow and educate businesses about waste reduction, recycling, how to do it, where to go, how to manage your materials. And so today we're working on full sustainability issues, we're working on zero waste issues, and we're doing planning within communities as well.
Talk a little bit about the focus of this year's summit.
Okay. This year's summit, our focus was the road to zero waste. We're in the midst of a project called the Zero Waste Community Roadmap, and it's been funded by the Nebraska Environmental Trust. And we are working with 5 communities across Nebraska to educate all of their political leaders, elected leaders, city staff, local recycling companies, local garbage haulers about the concepts of zero waste and how a community goes about building a zero waste system within their community. And so this summit was all about zero waste. We had tours of different infrastructure that's available here locally. We did 2 workshops, one for businesses on the new Nebraska Benefit Corporation laws, and another one for communities doing community zero waste planning. And then today we recognize 6 businesses for their sustainability efforts at our Sustainable Business Awards. And we had 25 vendors there that offer different services and products that help us to reach zero waste.
Now, both of your organizations focus on the zero waste concept. Yours focuses on communities, yours focuses on businesses. Tell us a little bit about EcoCycle, first of all, the one that focuses on communities.
Sure. EcoCycle is a nonprofit social enterprise founded 38 years ago. So we were pioneers in recycling, and now we're pioneers in zero waste. In 1996, which is quite a while ago already, we helped launch the concept of zero waste. And we tagged it Zero Waste or Darn Near, because we realized that there's a market for 90% of what's in your trash can. If it's separated correctly, we can get it back into beneficial use in society. So we knew recycling was just the beginning. And now we're moving forward on composting, reuse and repair, reduce upstream, source reduction, purchasing for recovery rather than buying stuff designed for the dump. So the zero waste full picture is really changes the way we look at waste. There is no such thing as waste. There's just resources, and these are opportunities.
And businesses were some of the first to find out that this was a really possible, viable, and very efficient and effective way to do things.
Yes, and many of it's coming out of Japan. So the Japanese companies, they have limited space over there, and same with many of the European companies. And so they adopted zero waste to landfill. We take it to another level. It's zero waste to landfill, incineration in the environment. But for businesses, it's all about efficiency and being smart and turning your trash into dollars.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the concept of zero waste. A lot of people are going to say that doesn't sound possible.
Right. Well, and that's why we said zero waste or darn near. Because right now, Nebraska is somewhere between 10 and 20% recycling rate. The United States is at 33%. And I just told you we have a market for 90% of what's in our trash cans. So The Zero Waste International Alliance, a group that I helped co-found 12 years ago in Europe, came up with an official definition. You can be classified as a zero waste business or a zero waste community if you divert 90% from the landfill. Because if you do that, you've seriously changed the world in your community or your business.
What kind of benefits are there to a community and a business from a zero waste strategy?
I think that zero waste creates jobs locally. It can create jobs statewide. It extends the life of our landfill and the costs that are associated with managing and creating new landfills, post-closure of the landfill, and the extended costs of that. It's great for our businesses. We know that our millennials are looking for jobs in places that are green. We know that here in the state, we've actually lost business from coming here to Nebraska because we weren't green enough. We didn't have enough green technology. We didn't have enough recycling programs for those businesses to want to come here. So it really increases our competitiveness. But most of all, the reason why we really want to look at this is its impact on climate. And we know that all of this waste, over 41% of what we're putting into our landfills today are paper products that are organic, and another 16% is food waste that's organic. So over 57% of what's going into our Nebraska landfills is organic products. And as that breaks down in a landfill environment, it's generating methane, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas.
You know, we are recouping some of that here in Lincoln, and I'm sure you learned about our system out there at the landfill. What are some of the barriers to creating a zero waste business and a zero waste community? Stephanie?
So for businesses, a lot of it's because, as Carrie said, we don't have the infrastructure in place, whether private or public, composting, recycling, and reuse opportunities. And more importantly, we don't have the training. So a lot of what we work on is training professionals and providing the resources. And, we're looking at training in the colleges. We need students that have degrees in zero waste and resource management. And then, of course, there's just the myths out there that if you go green, it's going to cost you a lot of money. The beauty of zero waste and dealing with your solid waste is you don't need to put in a lot of money to create a zero waste system. You change your trash bin to a recycling bin, and instead of paying for trash, you're getting paid for your recyclables. So unlike energy and water where you might have to put in big systems, it's real easy to get into your zero waste and start saving and making money.
And what are some of the barriers for communities like Lincoln?
Well, it all comes down to dollars and cents. And I think that we've got a problem with landfills being artificially cheap. $45 a ton to bury a ton of trash. And the problem there, of course, is the groundwater pollution and the air pollution don't get paid for by anyone. So Europe and some other countries have confronted that challenge head on, and they've created environmental impact fees to go along with landfills. Thus, the cost of landfilling in Europe with the same technology in Nebraska is 4 times as expensive because it's public policy. It's all public policy. So it's not that expensive, as Stephanie was saying. Over the long term, the zero waste system is cheaper than landfilling. We've seen the projections for landfill costs going up. They're not going to go down, ever. Where just the opposite, recycling, the value of recyclables has gone up 300% the last 20 years. So we're seeing a resource economy emerge in this zero waste thing that we just need to build the infrastructure now. If we're not going to use the landfill, we've got to start building the compost facilities, the reuse facilities, the construction and demolition. We do need some money to build the new infrastructure.
It sounds a bit overwhelming. Talk a little bit about the strategy to getting there.
Well, for businesses, what's great is a lot of the big companies like Toyota, Dell, HP, they are doing it, and so they're very willing to share their information. We actually have Albertsons, Vaughn, Safeway, and Whole Foods on our advisory board, and they work together. So I think that's one of the strategies, is to get this great information out and these tools out to other businesses and start mentoring them. And then also one of the strategies is working with partnerships, because one company's trash is another company's resource. So one example, we had an almond manufacturer, they're looking to burn their almond hulls, and a paint manufacturer was saying next to them, they're like, well, we need your almond hulls for our paint. And so really putting together these partnerships and having people use each other's resources.
And for communities, you have a 10-year bridge strategy that your organization has developed.
That's right. After 18 years of international exploration around zero waste community planning, EcoCycle International, we've written sort of a core generic document for any community to get started. It's a 10-year, 3-phase, 25-point plan that any community, they don't need experts to get going. And that's why I'm here and working with WasteCap. We're trying to get communities to take those first steps. And then you can start to customize it for your town, because every town's a little bit different. But I would say 80% of our plan is going to apply to any town in America. And so you don't have to wait or buy an expensive consultant to get the dialogue and get moving. And so, yeah, our plan, which we're working with WasteCap on right now, we're hoping communities pick it up and go, hey, we need to get started. This is going to take years.
And Carrie, part of your summit included a tour of some businesses that are working in the area of waste reduction. Talk a little bit about some of those examples we have here locally.
Okay, we had 2 separate tours yesterday. One actually visited a Surety Life and their green building and the concepts that they've built for their business. We went to Innovation Campus, and they actually just released information yesterday about their CRESS system, their energy recovery system that they have there. And then we had another tour that visited Recycling Enterprises out by the airport, and they're a local materials recovery facility. So they showed how the materials are sorted and processed and gathered. And we also went out to Firth, to Prairie Land Dairy, who had a manure composting operation, and they've now expanded that into a commercial composting operation, and they're working with schools and restaurants taking food waste. They're working with local haulers that are picking up yard waste, and they're creating a great compost product. One of the biggest concerns that we have in Nebraska is being a state that is funded by agriculture. Our entire economy is based around agriculture. And for our agriculture, we need healthy soils. And we're losing topsoil faster than we can replenish it. But also in a state where we have a lot of livestock and animals and manure, and 16% of our waste is food waste, we should be composting that material to put those microorganisms and the nutrients back into our soils, because there have been studies that have shown that our food is actually less nutritious. As we lose nutrients out of our soil and we lose our topsoil, we're losing nutrients. And to sustain our economy here in Nebraska, we need to make sure that we are putting all of that back into our soils and maintaining what our agricultural economy needs here in the state.
What are the implications if we don't go to a zero waste society?
Well, number one, we're going to run out of natural resources, and that's why a lot of the big businesses are focused on zero waste, because they want to recapture all those precious metals and the steel and reduce the amount of energy that's needed to. So that's a big concern is raw materials not being plentiful enough. And then the other thing is just not having efficient businesses. And our zero waste businesses survived and thrived in the recession because they were very lean and mean. And so that's very important. And then for the next generation, if we don't switch to a zero waste society, there's not going to be much left for them.
And for communities, what are the implications of not moving in this direction?
Right. If you don't move in this direction, you're going to continue to bury and burn natural resources. And that flies in the face of all the mega trends we're suffering under right now. It increases greenhouse gases. You're burning or burying jobs 10 to 1 in our industry versus a landfill. You're not putting nutrients back in the soil, you're putting them in the ground. So you're going the wrong direction on some of the biggest problems in our society right now. So really, zero waste is one of the few good news stories out there, because it's not expensive to turn the ship and start to do this. So the opportunity costs are very high, actually.
What's next for Lincoln and for Nebraska in terms of moving into this direction?
Well, WasteCap's going to continue doing our pilot project with our 5 communities for about a year now. We'll start doing some community planning with them and really sitting down at the table with their communities and doing education. We intend to continue to educate businesses. Stephanie's going to offer us some training so that we can be delivering zero waste business training here in Nebraska. One of the things that WasteCap's been doing for the last couple of years are actual waste sorts for businesses, and they are so amazing because it's just so obvious when you've sorted everything out to see, oh my goodness, 80% of what we're putting into our trash can could have been recycled. And it makes immediate changes when you can see all of that happening. And we've seen that happen time and again with businesses. So we want to continue to work with businesses at that level, providing the education and the training that they need, providing whatever resources that they need. But then we also want to work at the local level to ensure that the infrastructure is there and available, and that we are working on one statewide plan. We really want to work on a statewide plan. We know that this is a local issue, but in a rural state, we need to work as a system. And so we're really looking for partners to work with us on creating a great resource management system here in Nebraska.
And if you'd like to find out more information about that, we want to let people know how they can find out more about WasteCap. The web address is wastecapne.org, and the number there is 436-2384. Now, if you'd like to find out about these great organizations, EcoCycle's website is ecocycle.org. And the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council is uszwbc.org. Now, WasteCap has also just produced a 3-minute video that runs through the concept of zero waste and how it can be a benefit. Also about zero waste planning here in Nebraska. So stay tuned after this show. We'll be showing that 3-minute video right after this. Thank you all very much for being with us today, Carrie, Erik, and Stephanie. I hope you enjoyed your time in Lincoln. Come back anytime and check out how we're doing.
We will.
Great. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
And thank you for joining us for City Focus.
We live in a throwaway society where it's okay to dispose of perfectly good resources. How often do you use something once, throw it away, and buy another? Think about a trip to the grocery store. How much of what you buy ends up in your garbage? Plastic bags, plastic wrap, boxes, foam trays, paper, absorbent pads, tubs, containers, and more. Every year, Nebraskans throw out over $137 million worth of material that could be reused, recycled, or composted. Because of our advanced sanitation systems, throwing things away is easy. But what are the consequences for this convenience? Modern-day landfills are a necessity for a throwaway society, but they come with a heavy price tag. Landfills are extremely expensive to build, costly to monitor, and difficult to locate. Despite high-level engineering and numerous safeguards, landfills can also pose a serious threat to our environment and be harmful to human health. Decomposing garbage has already started contaminating our groundwater, while decomposing organic matter in landfills is one of the largest sources of man-made methane, a potent greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. Bigger and better landfills are no longer the solution to support our throwaway society. The time has come to rethink how and what we waste. WasteCap Nebraska has a plan. Our Zero Waste program is a roadmap that transitions communities from a waste-dominated garbage system to a resource-rich recovery system. It is a long-term strategy based on the work of EcoCycle International. The plan uses policy changes, new programs, infrastructure, education, and community engagement to pave the way to waste reduction. Citizens, government, and businesses work together to develop new systems and infrastructure, such as pay-as-you-throw garbage collection, construction and demolition debris recovery, universal curbside recycling, and food scrap composting. These programs recover, recycle, compost, and repurpose resources in our garbage, preserving landfill space, creating jobs, and reducing the impact of waste on our environment. Zero waste strategies benefit the environment on a local, national, and global level. Many communities across the nation are adopting zero waste policies and are demonstrating that more than 70% of what we call garbage can be recovered and sold to make new products. Communities in Nebraska have started down the road to zero waste and are beginning to transition from a throwaway mindset to a resource recovery community. Isn't it time your community got on the road to zero waste? To learn more about the Zero Waste Community Roadmap, visit wastecapne.org/zero waste.